I missed Squeakross Home Squeak Home's release a couple of weeks ago, mainly because there were a trio of other games that had rather taken over my life in early June. Two of those are the subject of our most recent videos, but the third, and the one I've spent the most time playing, was something I didn't think was going to be particularly relevant to any of our reviews. I am, of course, talking about the appropriately named Every 5x5 Nonogram by developer Joel Riley. It's a website which has every solvable 5x5 nonogram puzzle, or Picross if you prefer, and having been live for just over a month, it's fair to say that its players have got through a good chunk of those. While I'm perhaps a little too proud of my 1,000 solves, it's a drop in the ocean compared to the 14 million solved cumulatively in less than a month. And with only 25 million to solve, it looks like they'll be done sooner rather than later. Quick note, this review is going to assume that you know what a nonogram is. If you don't, I'd perhaps briefly familiarise yourself with the concept before continuing. As much as Joel's website hits you with the just one more turn feeling, even the most dedicated 25 square solver would probably agree that there's not much difficulty involved. So while it does sort of scratch any nonogram itch someone might have, I don't think anyone who's really into them is likely to say that repeatedly smashing through those at a rate of 5 per minute is the ideal way to enjoy them, when they could be working their brains on something a little more challenging. But nonogram games are, historically, rather samey. Yes, there's a few exceptions, like Mediatonic's Murder by Numbers, but usually the most exciting thing you'll be doing with your solved puzzles, if anything, is sticking them in a gallery. Arguably that's all you need. If you like solving nonograms, you'll enjoy the process enough that you'll be fine without anything else. And if you don't like solving nonograms, it doesn't matter how well it's written, no amount of murder mystery visual novel is going to make you enjoy the game. It's something I touched on in my review of the excellent minimalist puzzler Block Shop earlier this year, that, while nice enough, even the most well-executed nonogram game isn't going to blow you away with its gameplay. Rather, it provides a comfortable, tried and tested formula for you to sink your teeth into, as long as you know that's your sort of thing. Squeakross from two-person studio Alblune isn't satisfied with giving you just the puzzles though, and instead complements them with what is most aptly described as a life sim. I assume we've already established that I'm a nonogram fan, but I do also have a relatively soft spot for life sims. Admittedly, I don't really have the time to dive into one these days, and even if I did, I have to admit that the current offering doesn't really appeal to me. With The Sims 4 having its EA pricing model and inZOI seemingly being all appearance and no substance, I figured the upcoming Paralives was going to be the next best bet for something that might scratch that itch. I'm not going to pretend that Squeakross has a huge amount of depth in that department. Your rodent friend doesn't have little rodent buddies who come and visit for you to interact with, there's no rodent marriages or rodent babies, or thankfully, rodent swimming pools for you to remove the rodent swimming pool ladders from. At least, I don't think there's a swimming pool. The game currently boasts 325 items to unlock across 2 different catalogues, and at the time of writing, I've only just about finished the first. Each of those items has 2 puzzles linked to it, one to unlock it initially, and then a second to unlock colour variations and the ability to place multiples of the same object. These second puzzles are typically a bit more challenging, but the difficulty curve in Squeakross is planned well enough that even nonogram novices should, I think, be able to ease their way into the puzzles without feeling overwhelmed. In the case that they do get stuck, Squeakross has implemented a handful of useful hint systems to help them along the way. The option to show any mistakes, to assist with the logic of a solvable line, or to randomly fill in a square. This, along with a wide variety of gameplay settings which are available to players, such as auto-crossing completed lines, showing which lines currently have logical next steps, or triggering warnings when you've erroneously made a line unsolvable, all allow players to complete the game with as much or as little assistance as they feel is necessary. I said earlier that there wasn't much depth to the life sim part of the game, but the exception to that is the game's character creator, which I do want to give a big shout out to. I remember hearing a lot of people gushing over inZOIs, so where were all the people posting about the one in Squeakross, which might be the most fun I've ever had in a character creator? In it, players can make a sort of nondescript rodent. Whether it's a mouse, hamster or rat is pretty much up to them, as the customization is varied enough to make any of the three. Each time I thought I'd run out of things to change on my little rodent friend, I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of options available on the following page. Fur patterns, fur colours, height, weight, tail length and size, nose shape, mouth shape, disability options, whisker density. If you can imagine it, Alblune have probably thought of it. When the Catalog Free DLC comes along, and yes, I did just make that up, but there does seem to be plenty of space in the UI for future editions, I'll be the first to sign up, just as long as they build on the creator in the form of additional support to create degus, chinchillas, or gerbils. Alblune, if you're listening, that's your first free DLC sorted. No need to thank me. I'm only half joking. We'll see how much deeper I am into the game's 650 puzzles if and when any more content is introduced, because Alblune have already provided a hefty amount of puzzling for your €15 or dollars. But if I'm gonna be nonogramming in the near future, I can't think of a better place to be doing it than in Squeakross. Puzzles range from a handful of 5x5 grids right at the start, all the way up to at least one 30x30, though typically edges are somewhere in the 10 to 25 range. My biggest gripe feels more like a me problem rather than actual legitimate criticism, but I'll share it anyway just in case you, the listener, happen to share similar neuroses. The issue I find is that while I do get that hit of satisfaction every time I unlock some new furniture or an item for my little rodent friend, I'll be damned if I'm actually going to do anything with it, given that there's so much more to unlock and so many more puzzles to complete. I imagine I will at some point get the urge to properly decorate, but perhaps only once everything is unlocked, so I can be safe in the knowledge that there's nothing better left waiting for me, hidden deep in a catalogue somewhere. I don't think I can blame Alblune for that. It's not like I'd want my puzzles gated until I've spent 5 minutes throwing down furniture, and there's not really a fix because it's entirely my own fault. There's just a lot of content in the game that goes, at least by me, more or less ignored. A similar thing happens with the emails that go unread until they've stacked up and I read through a dozen of them in one go, or the stickers that I'm meant to be decorating my boards with. I'd rather just dive back into another nonogram, though paradoxically that's in no small part due to the rewards that the game gives you. Look, if that's the biggest problem I can find with Squeakross, I think it's pretty clear I'm having a good time with it. I said at the top of this video that missing the game's release meant this review came out a few weeks later than it perhaps should have, but admittedly it was even further delayed by me constantly returning to it when I could have been, working on writing it. I don't think the claim in the title of this video is that outlandish. I can't think of another Nonogram game that comes close to it in terms of atmosphere. The puzzles are solid and made as accessible as possible to all players, and the additional gameplay adds another dimension for people to enjoy, even if I've personally not been taking full advantage of it. At the end of the day, you could argue that it's just another Nonogram game, but I'm very comfortable crowning it as the best one of those that I've ever played. Squeakross Home Squeak Home is awarded 7.5 out of 10 by IndieLoupe.